everybody, I'm Yvonne Williams with Back to Earth Creations, and in this tutorial I want to show y'all how to make your very own wire wrapped circlet or necklace. So let's get started. So we're going to start off with, and you can change up the different wire sizes, but I'm using about 21 inches, two lengths of 21 inches of 16 gauge dead soft. You could use an 18 gauge, but I wouldn't go much thinner than that. And this is aluminum, but you could use pure or sterling silver, or like enameled copper, just, whatever you like. And then here I have a 28 gauge enameled copper core. This is parawire. And this is about 6 feet, but I have it folded in half so that I could find the center point. And then I just have a top drilled, like where it's drilled side to side, marquee bead, and then a variety of 4 and 6 millimeter onyx, or not onyx, jet and amber beads. So I'm going to start by taking, how am I going to start? I want to find the center point of our 16 gauge wire. And a list of all the different tools and materials will be listed down below too. That way, you can just reference it instead of listening to me ramble. And I'm going to grip it with some flat nose pliers. You could use chain nose. And I'm going to bend it against the curve that I have made. I really like the nice little point that gets me. And so I'm going to be taking this bead now and threading it to the center of my 28 gauge. You could use as thick as a 24, but much thicker than that, and it's going to be kind of hard on your fingers. Typically when I'm doing any kind of weaving, I use either a 24, 26, or 28 gauge. Okay, so this is pulled along to where it's centered up now. Let me zoom in just a hair. And you'll see that this actually fits pretty perfectly right there in that bend that we made. And you can modify the shape of your bend to suit whatever bead you have. And so I'm going to come in and do about 5 rotations. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Just pressing it down. And then I'm going to do 5 rotations on the other side. And you'll see here my wire's coming from the top on this side. So I'm going to have it go through on the top on this side. And that'll help my stone to kind of stay put, in theory. I'm also going to bend this so it'll be nice and snug. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. We can always count. 5, there we go. And so that's kind of sitting like that, but you can see it's like super duper floppy. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to determine which side is going to be the back, and I'm just going to cross on over and then do 5 rotations again. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then I'm going to take the other side, or the other wire, and cross right on over. And that'll be 1, get that wire out of the way. 1, I'm getting tangled up on everything today. 2, 3, 4, and 5. Compressing that down nicely, like just nice and tight. Oops, and then sometimes you're going to get some weird little kinks in your wire. I just try to undo them and then straighten it out with my fingers a bit. So now we have and it still wobbles quite a bit, but that stops it from going all the way through. So now our next step is going to be to take our second length of the 16 gauge wire, and this is standard wire gauge. Again, finding the center line of it, gripping with my flat nose pliers just off to one side of the center, then using my thumb to press, and that gives us a nice little drop spot. And honk goes the train. I'm going to be taking this and setting it on top of the stone right there, so that you can see this is going to behave to hold the stone to keep it from turning as much. It'll still have a little bit of wiggle to it, but that's fine. And so I'm just holding these firmly together, and I'm going to do 3 rotations around both. And now is the time to make any fine-tuned adjustments to make sure that our points are in the center line of the stone. And now I'm going to do 5 rotations along this wire. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Press that down nice and snug. Again, fine tune it just a bit. There we go. And I'm going to turn this around. And then I'm going to try to replicate that same thing on the other side. So it looks like it came from above on this side, so I'm going to come from above on this side, and I'm going to do 1, 2, and 3 rotations, and then 5 rotations on the top wire. And so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I don't know why 5 is just a nice round number to me. So you can do, however much you want. And I'm using 6mm beads, so if you're using a larger bead, you may want to do more rotations, because now our next step, and you can see it still, moves and stuff, but I think that's going to be okay. I don't mind it. So if you mind it, then you do you. We could actually add in a 3rd wire to do some more decorative stuff with, but I wanted to keep this one relatively simplistic. Good luck, I guess, future Vaughn. Trying to make this edited down to look simple. Who am I kidding? I'm not going to edit this. Okay, so I'm using a 6mm amber bead, and this is genuine amber. You could use whatever you like, but I'm just going to slide it down. And then if this is the front of the piece, I'm going to be calling this side the top and this side the bottom. So the top's between the back side and me. Like, I hope that makes sense. So I'm going to be keeping my weaving wire on top. I'm not going to be going through behind at all. It's all going to be on top. And I want to do a little bit, I call this a helix weave, to where we're going to be bending around. And I'm using the stone itself as a mandrel to kind of gauge the size there. But you can see how I've bent that around, but this one's on top right here, so now it's going under. And that's something to be mindful of, because we're going to be repeating that pattern. And it doesn't have to go this way, you could flip it, but I liked it like this. So I'm going to do 5 rotations quite tight. So you can see that's 1. Ooh, making a mess of my wire. And there's 2, 3, 4, and 5. And you can add some really interesting variation to this by using multiple sizes of beads as well. So we're going to be having the wire traveling off in this direction. And so we can tighten that cross point down just a little bit. And then I'm just going to do one rotation, behaving as a little bit of just a binding wire over those two. And then I'm going to do 5 rotations. This is what I get for having a messy workspace. 2, 3, 4, 5. But gravity takes care of us all in the end, so all of my work stuff will just be on the floor. And so now I am going to thread on a jet bead, also 6mm, after we've done our 5 rotations. And now, again, you can see I'm going to take this top wire and I'm holding our bead and I'm just going to manipulate it around like that. And I'm going to do 5 rotations. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Compress that down. Have it exiting away from us. And now we're also going to be bringing this wire, which was on top here, so now it's going to go behind, around, and I'm going to do the single wrap bind wire in between, and 5 rotations. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Compress that down. I'm going to thread on another 6mm amber. Oops, I'm all tangled up. If you find your wire tangling a lot, just kind of maybe slow down a bit. Be patient with yourself, be patient with the project. So again, pushing the bead all the way up to the wire, bending this around. Then we're going to do 5 rotations. You'll notice there's a trend here. 2, 3, 4, and 5, exiting away from us. And that just kind of serves to get the wire out of the way and preps us for the next stitch. So again, it's on top right there, so it's going to be on bottom on this side. And there can be, I like to leave myself a little bit of room for natural variation so I don't sweat it if they aren't like perfectly the same size. But you're working on your own piece, so you can have it be however organic and flowy or geometric and precise as you would like. So I have them crossed. I'm going to do that binding stitch or wrap. Whenever the metal, the wire we're using is thread thin almost, I don't mind calling them stitches. 2, 3, 4, 5. Push together. Then another jet bead. Bring that around. And now, if I remember to, I will post a picture that might pop up on the screen. I don't know, floating somewhere, maybe like over here, of a circlet that I did in this design, which I really enjoyed making. Like, I got to get a little artsy-fartsy with it. But so you could go that route with it. You could do this for earrings or bracelets or, I mean, truly anything. But I'm going to show you guys on this one how to make it sort of a more elvish focal point for like a necklace. So I'm going to do one more cross. So doing the binding wire, binding wrap stitch, and 5. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to do one more amber. And then we're actually going to bring this down to a 4mm bead so that you can see how to do this for something a little smaller. So taking this one, bending it around using the bead as the mandrel. And if you're having trouble getting them to wrap, just push that back wire away from you a bit and it'll open it up and make it easier for you to get your wire in like that. There's no reason to make this more difficult than it has to be. 4, 5, exiting away from us. And then we're going to bring the bottom wire, make them cross nicely, do that binding wrap. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now I'm going to thread on a 4mm, which I think just serves nicely to like taper it off. Okay. And so this is going to be quite tight. So we just bend like that. Then 1. There we are. Then I'm going to bring it up to here. And see how that kind of tapered it off? So you could do a really nice like 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 even, and then 10, 8, 6, 4, and just kind of really make a nice gradient necklace like that. I don't know, I think that'd be super neat. So we're gonna do that wrap stitch, and then I'm gonna do 5 rotations here, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I'm actually going to flip this over and begin repeating this same pattern off onto the other side. Now, since we have flipped it over, the same kind of muscle memory that we've built up doing these few over here is going to be reversed, because now suddenly this one, instead of bending it down and having it on top, we're bending it down and having it underneath. So you want to mirror image this side just as much as possible. So to do that, I'm bringing our wire around. We're going to dig out a little amber bead. I'm going to show you just the first couple of steps and then get to where we've done just as much on both sides. So I really like doing longer videos for you guys, but sometimes speeding it up a bit doesn't hurt. So we're bending that around, and I'm going to go 1, oops, hit the tripod, sorry. 3, 4, 5, and I actually find, I don't know why, but for me it's so much easier to just work from this side. So feel free to flip it around however you feel is necessary. Still going to be exiting away from ourselves though. So bringing that around, bringing this one up. And I try to make sure that the center is very symmetrical. I don't worry so much as I get out to the edges, but if this is the nose, I want the eyes to match, which is what make a really cute little like owl sculpture. Just ideas. Okay, bringing it around, doing our wrap stitch, then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then, oops, bringing this down, sliding on our next bead, holding it quite firmly, bending around, then going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, making sure to exit away from us. Oh, I messed up here. You can see instead of staying on the front side, I reverted to old habits. So and had done like a little bit of a figure 8 weave. So I'm just gonna unwrap that real quick and just wrap it in the other direction. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's another reason why I love this pair of wires, because it really can take quite a bit of abuse. And so, down, bringing that up. Doing our wrap wire, or our binding stitch. Then doing 5. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so I'm gonna toss this into, like, I'm not gonna do time lapse, but I will meet you guys back here for the next step. And if you were just doing a bracelet where you aren't mirror imaging in the center, then you would just kind of just truck right along. But yeah, I'm gonna finish up until both sides look the same. So I have finished weaving out the design, and I actually coiled my remaining wire around our core wire, and I'm doing that same thing on the other side. And I'm not really keeping track of how many rotations. I just rotate, just coil about a centimeter and then compress it down, and you can keep it nice and cinched and even. Just keep on keeping on. This is nothing if not repetitive. So as the wire gets shorter, it gets a little bit more difficult, just because you don't have as much to hold on to. So you can actually get to where you're just kind of twisting it on. But again, there's as many different techniques to do this as there are people to do it, so it's less about how you get there and more about your end result. Now, if you wanted at this point, we could splice in a little bit more wire and have it cover more of the core wire, but I'm pretty happy to just have it at this. So compressing it down, and see that rogue end poking out there? I'm just gonna grab it and cinch, just to keep it as flat as possible. You don't want anything to be snagging. Okay, so now as a circlet, this would be great in its current form, just being like kind of straight across, but I'm gonna want this as a necklace. So I'm actually going to do a little bit of a heart-shaped collar necklace. That way it would work well as a circlet or as a necklace. And I'm holding the front and center as steady as I can, and then just gently smushing things around to where I'd like them. So you can see how it's bent this way to curve around the neck, as well as this way to accent the collarbones. We can actually turn it up just a little on the ends, and I think that will sit lovely as a necklace. And now from here we can take these ends, and we could either just like make them off into a little loop on each side, and that would be where the chain or ribbon would attach. But I'm gonna get a little artsy fartsy with it. So I'm actually gonna count the 3 beads in, and just bend this around to where it sits there on the front like that, and then bring this up in behind. Now I'm going to grab it and just do a little twist, and again come up and behind. And you could do this however you like, but I really like making little curly Q decorative things. So I'm coming up from behind, but I'm going to slide in through the front, curling this end around, that way I don't have to worry about making a sharp bend, and just pushing it through to the back side. Because I'm actually going to use this wire to make something to stabilize the back. So now, before moving on, I'm going to try to emulate this exact same thing on the other side, so good luck. And so again, focusing on, I came 3 beads in and crossed on the front. So I'm just going to grab it and come 3 beads in and cross on the front. Try to make sure that these loops here are the same size. That'll help our sense of symmetry. And then I'm coming behind, then looping this way, maybe? Yes, okay. And then coming behind. Again, this is not an exact science. The more you practice, the better of a hang you'll get of it. And so now from here, coming up from behind, checking its relation. See, over here it's crossing on the amber side of the point, whereas over here it crossed on the jet side. So I'm going to cross on the jet side. Just finding reference points to fixate on can really help, I think. And then trying to get that wire curved to where it matches. And now from here, we can measure out. This one is just a little longer than the other one, so I'm just going to eyeball it and snip that off. Now I'm going to use our round nose pliers and flip it over and start by making a tight little loop. I want that to be a closed loop, because if whoever ends up owning this as their own wears it as a circlet, like over their hair, I don't want it to get tangled if we can help that. So now we're taking that little loop that we made, and I'm just going to loop around to where it's on the back. So again, I'm just grabbing, loop around on the back. And that's pretty enough. That could be the front, really. So that's how that's sitting in the front. Oh, I really like that. And so now from here, we can, we could go in the opposite direction. Which we may do that. Just making a little loop, and then bring it up and around. And you can see I just held here and here, and then ran my thumb along that wire to give it that curve. But I'm going to tuck it to the back. Just right there. To see how that, so we looped around and came over, and by stabilizing, it stabilizes it, I think, to go from the front side to the back side, or from the back side to the front. That way I don't have whole pieces that'll just kind of lift out and away. Okay, and so just kind of twisting this around, and I'm actually going to leave that to rest just right there, because I'm not sure what I want to do yet. Let's try to get it to match on the other side. Okay, so how did I do that? It's coming off to the bottom towards the front, so it curled in that way, so we're going to curl in this way and just kind of twisting that around. Yeah, sure, why not? And so there's our little curlicue. And by holding it further out, it lets the spiral kind of lay where it wants to. I'm going to flip it over, that way I can get that same hand motion down to make that curve. I'm coming and I'm checking. Okay. So it's coming between the jet and the amber right there. And then making sure that it's not too far away or too close to the frame, checking the reference point here and here. And so I'm going to kind of hold that stable while I make another little twist. That looks pretty meh, maybe. I'm just making this up, you guys, like really. Just kind of curving it out just a little. Okay, so now the question is how to stabilize these wires here. And I think what I want to do, if I can, is bring this out and then tuck it through, if I may, right there. So you can see how that happened, just right through there. I'm going to try to do that on the other side. And again, the more curved I can make it, the less likely it is to get like a kink or something in it. Okay, flipping it over for continuity's sake. Trying to gradually curve it. And it looks pretty symmetrical. And so I'm actually going to finish it off with a little loop like that on each side. There we go. Checking it for symmetry from all angles. And you can see very little bit of wiggle now. I feel pretty good about that. Holy crap, this isn't what I planned, but I like it. Tightening that down just a little bit to try to make it a touch more symmetrical. Now if I had not used jet and amber, I would put this through a tumbler with some just rice, uncooked rice, and let it tumble for a while, and that would work harden it, or surface harden it up. That way it's not quite so flexible. And I probably still could do that, but I would rather leave it as a delicate piece and not risk marring the finishes on these softer stones. That is how that has come out. And now from here, if we wanted to make this into a necklace, we could take just any old mechanized chain. I think I actually got this from Walmart. Like, believe it or not, it's actually a really great enameled iron. Like, you know, just in the Walmart crafty section. I can't remember the brand now. But this is a tried and true. I can wear it without it turning my skin green. Now, granted, everyone is different, but I do have a warranty that if something that someone purchases from me does irritate them, or, you know, turns them green or anything like that, they can bring it back and we will make modifications to it to try to make it not turn them green. If that entails changing out the chain, or, you know, putting some coats of like PIM or something on it, or Renaissance wax to keep it from, like, you know, provide a little bit of a barrier. But some folks, it just turns them green. So, but for the most part, we've had a lot of success with this chain. And we could use, there'll be links down in the video description below where you can find like different colors of enameled chain that we get from theringlore.com. But we would use that. And then I've got somewhere a little bag of rings. Yeah, this is some rings that I coil and cut myself and send out in my monthly Patreon craft crates. And I find they're a really great size for attaching chains together, because they're small enough with the 18 gauge wire that they can fit through even mechanized curb chain. But being 18 gauge, that's a nice thick, like, stout jump ring. So to make this into a necklace, I would just open up my jump ring, hook it onto that loop there, and then hook it onto the chain, and then close it, attach my clasps and different things. Or going through that same loop, I would just attach ribbon in a lark's head knot. So I'm going to go ahead and make this into a necklace though. And so we've attached our chain. I'm going to measure out, it looks like this one is 6 inches wide. So let's see. It's about 8 inches actually, 4 and 4. So I'm going to measure off. I have a little ruler etched into the edge of my desk because I lose my rulers all the time. Hopefully I will not lose my desk. Hopefully. Now selling this out of the booth, I want to be able to sell it as a choker. So I'm going to start with maybe like 4.5 inches of chain on each side. And I just go ahead and snip it. I don't want to have to mess with. Curb chain is really hard to open and close and get to like close nicely. So I just sacrifice the link. I'm gonna open that back up. Hook it onto the end there. Gosh though, I am really pleased with how that one came out. It's been a minute since I've done something in this wrapping style, but I really like it. And by using the 26 gauge wire, it really increases the diversity of beads that we can use because the 16 gauge doesn't really fit through a lot of different ring sizes. And if I were my clasps, what on earth would I have done with myself? Here we go. These are 7 or 9 by 12 or 7 by 14, I don't know. Just lobster claw clasps that I buy in bulk. They are nickel free, so I pay a little extra for them, but totally worth it. And I like it because it has a nice secure little clasp action there. I am right-handed, so I'm going to put this for if I were putting the necklace on, that I'd be working the clasp with my right hand. But that is something that I do make modifications on in the booth upon request. And, oh, don't tell me it won't fit through. And sometimes it's not worth putting up the fight. I'm just going to pick a different clasp. Whenever they're being plated in the silver enamel, sometimes the little hole fills in more. See, that one slid right on. So I'm going to go ahead and close that one. And then what I do from here, because this is like super tiny necklace, definitely for a choker or something. But what I do then is I go through with, this is more enameled steel, very strong chain. If this is probably about a 2mm size curb chain, this is a 4mm, and I'm actually going to measure off 5 inches because suddenly that takes it from being an 18-inch choker to like a 23-inch necklace. And then we usually bring this chain with us and we can make modifications just there out of the booth for folks who would want it as like a very long necklace. And so that's how I would finish the ends. And now we have the nice option to be able to hook it anywhere along that chain. That way whoever buys it can adjust it to the neckline of what they're wearing or to what they prefer. And if you wear it as a choker, it gives you a very nice, elegant drape down the back of the neck, which if you're doing this for yourself, you could use like a head pin and put a very pretty counterweight drop. Like just kind of put that on there and have it hang down the back. And I find that that helps keep the necklaces from like going askew whenever you're wearing them. Well, we did it, guys. Thanks so much for hanging out with me during this video. I hope that it was helpful to you. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas, please leave those down below. And I am actually going to try this on. Here it is as a circlet. Now, if I were to do this as a circlet, normally I put ribbon on it, because that gets a little less tangled in your hair, but it can definitely be stabilized with some bobby pins. Just a nice little circlet like that. I personally prefer circlets with an updo, but you can take it and I just kind of smush to get it to fit along the curvature of the person's forehead, because I have an expansive forehead, so I like to wear mine kind of centered and sitting like that. Some folks may, if they have a lower hairline, may prefer to wear their circlets like kind of right along the rim of their hairline, or just however they like, or like with an updo. And then for a necklace, let's try this on also. Messing with the clasp. So get the hair up out of the way, and I'm going to go ahead and bring it, just because of the neckline of what I'm wearing, to its shortest setting. There we go. And I actually think it sits really well just like that. So very elvish, very cool. And I do think it is something that sits nice at the base of the neck on the collarbones, though if a person preferred, they could wear it up on their neck. I don't quite have the neck for that, so I prefer something that gives me a little bit of an elongating effect. So, but yeah, that's it, you guys. If you enjoy my free tutorials and would like to support the creation of more of them beyond just liking and subscribing and spending time with me and commenting and being awesome just the way that you are, please consider checking me out on Patreon. We do all sorts of behind the scenes footage or pictures and stuff, as well as weekly giveaways, monthly craft crates, digital download content, I mean, all sorts of different stuff. So be sure to check that out. But until next time, y'all, happy crafting. Bye.